Hey, what's up everybody? Thank you for checking this video. If you want to see more, please leave a like and subscribe. But even if you don't, enjoy and happy coding. This episode is brought to you by SkySilk. If you're looking for a free Linux-based VPS in the cloud, go to skysilk.com. No strings attached. Just awesome stuff. Welcome to another tutorial. In this video, we're gonna implement a couple of suggestions that you guys had in the previous video. And this is one of the many reasons why I love doing tutorials, is that by sharing my knowledge and putting out these videos, I always get suggestions on how to improve my code and how to approach some problems from a different perspective that I probably didn't think of. And this is great, so thank you for all your suggestions, and let's improve this testimonial form. So the first thing to do inside our testimonial controller, we are gonna double check if this is an actual Ajax call and the user or an hacker or someone with some sketchy behavior didn't try to trigger this thing in order to push some unwanted information in our administration panel. So we can use a constant global variable declared by WordPress that exists only during an Ajax call. And this constant variable is simply called doing_Ajax. This variable will be true if we're actually dealing with an Ajax call. So we can simply put this inside a condition and say if this doing Ajax with exclamation mark is not set, so this is false, we should actually return this. So we can copy the return status error, return the JSON WP send, and then the WP die. Now we can do another little improvement. So whenever you code something, it doesn't matter if it's PHP, ASP, .NET, CSS, or JavaScript, whenever you have portions of code that you see are repeated, in our case, we are redeclaring this return variable, we're calling the WP send JSON, the WP die, we're doing this like 3 times in 3 different moments of our testimonial controller. Whenever we have this is the perfect example, a perfect time of optimizing this code and try to avoid to repeat portions of code that they do exactly the same thing. So why don't we extract this stuff? We put it in a dedicated function that we're gonna call dynamically whenever we need it. So let's do it. Let's copy this thing, and right after the submit testimonial method, or you can write this wherever you want, it's always the same. Let's create a publicly accessible method called return JSON, and here we want to return the status. So we want to give the ability to us, to the developer, to declare which status we want to return to this JSON. And of course you can call this method however you want. In my case, return JSON makes sense. Let's paste the code that we just copied before, and here we can update the status to which status the user, the developer, is gonna pass here. So in this method, we're simply declaring a variable that it's an array, sending this array as a response JSON, and then interrupt the execution of the script with the WP die during an Ajax call. Perfect. Now we can replace, every time we do this kind of thing, we can replace it with this return JSON variable. So this is a status error. Perfect. Let's do return this, that is the instance of this class. So we're tapping this class and then the return JSON method, and we can pass inside the string error because this was an error message. Then we can copy these, and we don't really need to pass the ID because we're not dealing anything in the front end. We're not returning the ID, we're not doing anything. So we can simply remove all of these and simply pass our success. And also here, let's copy once again the error and let's paste it also here. And we can simulate this by doing a positive thing. So if this is an Ajax, we should return an error. So we can try, after saving, if we refresh this page and we start putting some gibberish code here, we open the inspector in the network tab. That is the most important thing. We click submit. There was a problem with the contact form. Please try again. Even if we don't actually have a problem, we are triggering the problem to see if it actually works, because we put if the doing Ajax is true, let's trigger an error. So we know that it's working. Now let's put it back if it's false. Another quick validation that we can do, and we can extend a little bit the form, is by using a nonce. If you know a little bit about WordPress, you know that every time there's a form submission in the admin panel or something that gets updated from the user to the database, there's a nonce. A nonce is a unique unique code that WordPress double checks if the code matches whatever code is getting passed from the form, just to be sure that this is a legit action trigger from within WordPress. It's not an external API call, something that it's coming outside, it's something that is coming from a third-party application or whatever. So let's implement the nonce with an Ajax nonce, which WordPress allows us to do. Let's access our contact form in the templates, and right here we can implement another extra hidden input field with our nonce. So we can duplicate this and still type hidden. The name is nonce, and in the value we need to dynamically generate a nonce through the WordPress methods. So let's open and close the PHP tags, and here we can echo a built-in method of WordPress called wp_create_nonce. Of course, the nonce accepts just a simple string that has to be unique, and we have to remember what string we're passing because we want to check that string if it's identical in our testimonial controller. So I'm gonna pass a string, for example, testimonial-nonce, something like that. Perfect. Now that the input field has this little thing, we need to update our JavaScript form submission in order to include these nonce, because we're not passing in the processes data. So let's tap also the form.js in our source, and inside the event listener submit, here we're collecting all the data, but we're not collecting the nonce. So let's fix this by duplicating this line, and the name nonce, it's equal to the query selector name nonce. So inside here, oh, sorry, this is not none, it's nonce. Let's be clear about this. We don't need to validate the nonce because this is something dynamically generated by WordPress. It's all good. By putting the nonce inside the data, we're gonna pass this data with our parameters in the body as a search parameter. So our JavaScript will dynamically pass that nonce to our testimonial controller. And in the testimonial controller, we can check if we actually have that nonce. So WordPress gives us the ability to use a built-in method called check_Ajax_referrer. So the method is check_Ajax_referrer. I don't know how you say it. This is a really complicated word for me. So sorry if I mispronounce it, but Ajax referrer. So we are checking the reference of an Ajax whatever. This method accepts two parameters. The first is the unique name of the nonce that we declare in the contact form. So if we access here, we declare testimonial nonce as a parameter to create the nonce, so we can paste it here. And the second parameter, we need to check which post attribute is this testimonial nonce part of, like in which post attribute is this value inside. And our post attribute, because we know that in the form we're declaring all these data parameters like name, email, message, and nonce, and in the controller we're getting the post attribute with name, email, and message, so we know that is nonce. We need to pass the post attribute as a string. And this can be kind of confusing. At the beginning, when I wasn't using this parameter or like this method, I was thinking to do something like that. Put the post request attribute and then tap the nonce. But WordPress is smart enough to recognize that this is an Ajax post request, so we'll automatically grab, and once again, nonce, not known, we'll automatically check if this nonce attribute is present in the post request. We don't need to pass the post request. And this method is super cool because automatically returns -1 if it's not true, if this doesn't match, otherwise returns 1. So true, it's almost a boolean, returns true or false if this matches properly. And we can use this once again in another validation. So we can say that if the check Ajax referrer it's false, we can once again return the JSON with the error. And here we can also optimize a little bit more, because as you notice, we are repeating the same thing with two different checks. So since this is not too long, we can also get this and say that if this doing Ajax is not declared, is not defined, or the check Ajax referrer is not defined, or is negative, it's false, it's not there, we can return. So we don't need to do a double separated condition. We can put everything inside one condition. So we avoid to trigger anything else if these two are false, which is perfect. And this is already a great optimization. The last thing that I want to do is cleaning up a little bit the form.js, and especially in the reset of the form. So here what I'm doing, I'm resetting, sort of quote-unquote resetting the testimonial form by forcing an empty value to the name, email, and message attribute. But there's also a JavaScript API available in the browser that allows us to actually reset the form and all the input that are writable and accessible by the user with a simple method. So we can basically delete all of these and just simply tap the testimonial form and write reset with the regular brackets and no parameter passed, which is super handy and cleans up a lot our JavaScript, avoiding to repeat so many lines for every input field that the user can write. Well, that's pretty much it for this video. This was a quick overview on how to optimize a little bit of code, make it like slightly more secure, handling some JavaScript Ajax validation, and implementing all your amazing suggestions. So please keep doing that. Every time you see something in my tutorial that is not super clear or is not good and you think could be optimized, please write a comment below, leave me a suggestion, leave me a link to a more optimized method or something more updated or something easier to implement for you, and I will definitely check it out, and if I like it, I will implement it in the tutorial. So I love this thing, please keep doing it. Thank you so much for watching, and I talk to you in the next one.